Hey everyone, Espira, and welcome back to the Super Combo Podcast. As usual, I'm joined by our co-host Chris of UniX. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm feeling a lot better. Getting back on the grind for a couple different channels. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm quaking with energy.
Yeah, as usual, you're on that big grind, getting out some powerful videos. I mean, it's a shame because you did have a pretty solid like lineup of videos to get everyone ready for UW format, and then Bandai decided to scoop that 360 on you. But
Oh, Bandai like freaking 2-0 clapped me on that one. They were just like, is he actually planning content? Get that shit out of here! Like, just I got destroyed. Hit use time skip. I didn't even see him coming. Like, I had put out a video for upload. I stayed up the previous night until like 2 a.m. Put this video out, and I was like, this will go up at 10 because we don't get any news right now. We're getting like 8:30 spoilers. We're just getting nothing. So I'll just put this out at 10. It'll work. 9:30, they're just like, hey yo, so BT dubs, nah. But I have to thank everybody that came out and actually watched the video because that video still hit normal numbers despite it being irrelevant now. So thank you guys for that. That was heat.
I think there's a lot of utility in it, anyways. Like, I don't think UW format's actually going anywhere. I think for this event, sure, but like I think for side events, it'll still make its appearances whenever we have other things to come down the line with OP. So I think there's still a bunch of utility in actually exploring and discussing like what is and isn't a part of the format, kind of what makes sense and what doesn't sense. And actually, I guess we kind of half jumped into it before actually explaining to our listeners. But for those guys who aren't in the know, DBS Fest, which was the first, it's not an organized play event, but it was their first official event for the Dragon Ball Super card game in 2022. Was originally going to be a UW format event, which they kind of sneaked into the rules page about a few weeks after their announcements at the event. And everyone from the community kind of really uproared on that. And now we're going back to it being standard format. There's a lot more based around that, but a lot of players very happy that they're back on the train of it being a standard format tournament. So to that front, I was getting ready to prepare some UW content. I was like, shit, all right, well, let's explore it. And they was just like, all right, well, I'm good thing I'm lazy.
I mean,
Because like I was like, all right, cool. I don't have, even though I do think there's value in it and it's probably worth exploring again, but probably back pocket that until they announce side events that actually include them. But yeah, so our topic for today will be exploring, the changes that were made, and within the changes, they also announced that they will be testing a new best of one format, where they're going to allow us to bring in sideboards and pre-side after both players reveal their leaders, which is very interesting. It's been a this has been a change that has been proposed by the community for a while now. Flesh and Blood function in the same manner for their best of one formats. So it's very interesting. A lot to explore there. And of course, we'll close out with the mailbag. So, UW format dropped. I think, and I agree with you. I think last time on the pod we talked about this. It was basically just the fact that it wasn't announced from the get go, and like I feel like whenever Bandai does kind of get these clapbacks from the community, it is sometimes just because they kind of forget some like pivotal information when they make announcements like those.
that's not wrong. That's not wrong at all.
Yep. But and now they're pulling back on it. Like I guess now there's like, because I think you were debating between both events, right? And just kind of figuring out where your crew goes, and that'll kind of dictate which one you're going to.
Yeah, and it ended up being like Florida if
Mm,
it still gets up off the air. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little odd. It's definitely a
okay.
little odd.
Okay. Did you have like your deck chosen if it was the UW format?
If it was the UW format, it was going to be between one of three decks, and to be honest, they're all still kind of real. Like, that's the thing that's kind of weird. They're all definitely still real.
Mm.
Let's see. It's kind of weird. It's definitely kind of weird. Like, I'm trying to think about it because I don't want to give anything away because these decks are still alive. That's the thing. These decks are still alive. But you know what? I no longer care. It took about 3 seconds. We're good now. Basically, it was either going to be U7 Goku, but that one
Yeah.
was a little weird because that one was most contingent upon how yellow is. Because if yellow stays anywhere near what it's like, that would be bad. Black Trunks, because in the UW format, Gogeta actually loses a fair amount of consistency,
Mm.
and that's kind of a problem. Like they lose the time regulator Trunks or whatever that Trunks is that just gets off the top. That's huge because it allows you to reset your graveyard. It also is a free plus when it goes out. There's a couple things. They lose power burst, they lose petrification. There's just some stuff that they lose that I'm not necessarily comfortable with losing.
Mm.
And so that was kind of awkward. So it would probably be Trunks for me for the black pick. And then the last one I was looking at was actually Wish, Goku Black, and Zamasu.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean that deck is just powerful in its own right, plus all the yellow stuff. So
It's ignorant. It is ignorant. Do not sleep on that. Don't sleep on that Goku Black SR. Like when I say that that deck is absolutely disgusting, I'm not playing.
yeah. Same for me. I think whether it's standard or not, I think Red U7 Goku will probably end up being my pick, just because like I want to play something fresh and new, and the deck pretty much lives within the confines of what it's trying to do, even though there is benefit, including older stuff, like Broly Crowns and whatnot. So um, I think that'll probably be my pick for the event. Shame I would go to the IRL events, but it would cost me like $1,000 to win like if I scrub out to just to win like a couple $100 in pricing. So I think I'll stick to the online event for what's available for us Canadians. So
Nah, dude, win big. Use the the Cloud
yeah.
Geku, like the Mangekyo Cloudagon, in order to juice people for your prizing.
Honestly. But in the same post, so they announced no UW format. We're back to standard, which is cool. So we'll see that this will be the first tournament, which will be an example of what we're going to expect into organized play. Now, you couldn't really say that about the UW format, because that's typically oriented towards side events. But being now a standard format tournament, then now we're really going to get our first peek, because by then the ban list should be out and the new sets out. So it should be what we should expect to see once they do announce OP, which is really cool. And that same, and they also, to touch back on the conversation that we had last pod, no rotation guaranteed. I mean, I think we kind of knew this. I think the community was just wild, and I even told them as much last week that you guys are actually just kind of being crazy about this. But now Bandai saying we never. I don't know about never consider rotation. Like I feel like as a card game dev, like you always at least discuss these kinds of things. Otherwise, there wouldn't really be a point to doing block formats. But regardless of that, they're not considering rotation, and the game isn't meant to be rotated. So that's cool. That should alleviate a lot of frustrations or anxieties that people were having about where the game was going. And then finally, they announced that they're going to be testing a new best of one format. So, for what it's worth, this is just a testing ground. This isn't official. It's just a side event like this is a great opportunity to be able to test things like these. So they're going to be best of one games, 30 minutes with a 5-minute OT. 50 to 60 green card deck with a 15 card side. Once players reveal their characters, players have 1 minute. 1 minute to complete siding? Sheesh. That's not a lot of time.
Quick.
1 minute to complete siding, and then in between rounds you have to return your deck to the main deck, which I actually think it's kind of dumb to return your deck to the main part of your deck. Like at that point, just always make sure your side deck has the same amount of cards, because like no matter what, you can just keep on swapping. But nevertheless, and then top cut matches will either be best of one following the above, or switch to best of three depending on the venue and availability and stuff. Besides round time, because I still think 30 minutes is kind of tight for those long games, we've seen every single best of one regional with the old rules still have tables that go to time, Now, I'm not saying that should be justified. I think some players play incredibly slowly. If you can't get rid of one game in 30 minutes, you should probably speed up the pace of the game. But based on the statistics we have from last year's organized play season, it should probably be bumped up to someone closer to 40. But nevertheless, a tighter schedule. We'll see how it works. Overall, I'm super down for this. Flesh and Blood goes like this. I know a lot of people have been justifying trying to play the game like this. I am really excited because like a lot of frustrations around best of ones were just like, oh sweet, I played this one random matchup that I didn't metagame for, and like I auto lose, and like it is so incredibly frustrating.
Daylon, is that you? I don't know. I just heard like Flesh and Blood like 9 times in a row, and
Okay,
it's
like
wild,
twice.
man. He was counting, I see. I mean, look, it's just kind of wild because this is the preferred. Like, I don't, I never want to burn any bridges, but I'm feeling like super spicy, and I just want to say, like, if you, it's just so outlandish, man. If you can sit here, look directly into somebody's eyes, and just be like, okay, bro, like this best of one format ain't it. Like there are brain cells missing. Like there are just actual brain cells missing. And I don't mean to be mean about it. It's just like, what was the worst quality about best of one? Running into a matchup that is just naturally bad for you. Being a cell surge deck that runs into a Android 16 deck, being a blue deck that runs into a cell surge deck. Like just running into your worst matchup is the worst part about best of one. You have nothing to do. You can't ever get that salty run back. You get your cheeks clapped and then you just have to sit with your L. This is the immediate counter to that. Now, granted, there are still some decks that are going to slide into the meter. Like if somebody flips over a Sin Shenron, you don't know whether your ass is about to get clapped with aggro or a bunch of blockers with one that's just negating your skills, or with like, just overall let me get to 6 energy and you never out advantage me again. Like you don't know. So there's still some leaders that slip through the cracks. But for the most part, this is going to allow you to look at that leader and be like, okay, I'm not going to get completely dusted by the random. Now, that being said, one of the things I like most about this best of one format is that it still actually rewards people that play the game. Like knowing what leader your opponent's playing on the other side of the field ain't gonna do jag diddly if you're just out of tune to the format.
Yeah.
They will put in cards you've probably never read before, you never interacted with before. Your cheeks will be clapped immaculately, and then you will be sent home with your L, as you would have been in the normal best of one format. So nothing changed for you if you don't pay enough attention. But if you actually are keeping up with the game, this is the actual preferred best of one format if we are to play best of one. Definitively.
Yeah, I
At me.
don't.
You can actually at me on that.
I don't even think it's close. I think, as someone who spent the entire last competitive season playing almost every single webcam tournament available, um, it is like I had an Invoker run where I played against like 4 reboot Gohans in one tournament and somehow managed to take them all down. Don't get me wrong, that felt amazing, but like it was such a feel bad the entire tournament because the entire tournament basically was, do I see my one of X amount of negates? No, then I just lose. Like it's and there was nothing for me to do about that, right? Besides just like maybe top decking better, right? So I think it creates so many situations where you actually have a game and you're rewarded, like you said, for actually understanding the meta and understanding what your opponent does now. And there's that two-way street too, right? Like just like you said with Sin Shenron, like there are decks where legitimately you could have any 4-5 build, right? Like I put Soul Striker in front of you, like all right, bet what do you think I'm playing, right? There's like 4 different variations of this deck, all of which almost use a different color. So like, I think to that end, there's that kind of play too, right? Where you're, as the player trying to you can still rogue out a tournament and have that surprise factor on your opponents because now you're playing with their expectations, right? Hey, this is my leader. You can take a best bet at what it is, and your best bet should probably be what's the most represented in the meta. But I can play and subvert your expectations on that front and maybe get an up edge on the tournament that way. And now you just sideboard a bunch of crap. Now, never mind the fact that Soul Striker has blue bullets that hit it no matter what. But nevertheless, right? Like any other leader is kind of in that same kind of position if they're generically able enough to flex like that. And I think I think this is going to make best of one. Like, there are a lot of people who are doubters of best of one, and I think no matter what, webcam play will never stray away from that for that certain minority. But I think this alleviates a lot of frustrations that the community has in terms of playing in best of ones. And like it or not, I think best of ones aren't going anywhere. I think the webcam model is extremely successful. You can run an entire tournament without needing a venue, which makes it way more profitable for TOs. So I think, and this is kind of in the same line as to why I think eventually we do just need them to return to the best of one ban list, because this is like them doubling down and trying to find how to optimize the best of one format just showcases them that this to them is a premier way to play the game. This is a legitimate way to get yourself invites, to get yourself to the higher levels of play. And I think players just need to accept that this is probably, one of the most consistent avenues to get to higher levels of play moving forward, or will be, right? Like, nothing about this is confirmed. This is just a testing ground, but realistically, this is probably going to be quote unquote the future.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, I don't think this is going to take best of ones off the map. I desperately hope not, because best of threes are still, in my opinion, the most skillful.
Oh, not even close. Yeah.
Just like it's like a lot of people are just like, this is best of threes. Like, look, if you think best of threes take too long, you're a scrub. I don't want to invoke the original, but you already know you're a certain caliber player. You may or may not know how to play the game, and you're not good. Like, I don't want to quote, but I'm just saying, like, best of three is so just crucial, no matter what format you see it in, whether it be TCGs, fighting games, anything like that, because it gives you a chance to play well. It gives you a chance to, even if you misstep, bring it back. Momentum, breaking somebody else's momentum, adjusting. And that's all important, because like, nobody plays perfectly 100% of the time, especially after a whole 9-round, 10-round tournament. There can be times where you make a crucial misplay, and in a best of one format, that crucial misplay can just be the entire game, which it could be in, a best of three, but in a best of three, you can make that crucial misplay, take a deep breath, recalibrate, and come back to slap somebody. Like, look at Duvall. Duvall got hit with that monkey once, and I'm granted that was part of the match.
That was the one.
He never got hit with that monkey again. He's never gonna get hit with that monkey again. The thing is, if that was in game one, if that had happened in game one, I guarantee it would have never happened in game 2 or 3. Like, you need that best of three. So I do not believe that this is going to be the future of all formats, but I definitely think that this is, if best of one is to ever be implemented, it needs to be like this. And again, you were just smoking that pack, the loud pack, if you were completely that copium, if you think that it should be like, it's just it's wild, man. It's wild. It's a good change. It's a good change. I'm glad that they're changing it to this, because sometimes card games can be very, very swingy, and matchups are very important.
Yeah. And I will say pre-side, like, I've been deck building with pre-side in mind for the past few days, and it makes deck building so refreshing. And it's kind of funny that, like, I keep sending my teammates like these wonky main boards, and they're like, why does your main board look like this? And I'm like, it doesn't matter what's in my main board, as long as whatever's within my 65 to 75 and I like it, I can just hot swap whatever I need before every match. So it's kind of been funny building a sideboard while also not kind of caring what my main board looks like, as long as I know that I have the best 65 to 75 cards to build the best deck for every single game. So that's been refreshing. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very weird, but it's been a good time.
It's like, oh, so you thought I was going to stay at this? Like, I'm not, like, it's like, I don't know. That is funny. Like, why does it look like this? What is it supposed to look like? Like what am I supposed to do here? But that's funny, and inadvertently, this kind of leads to the death of Cell Zeno this kind of leads to the death of Cell Surge in these best of one events, like, because
Good.
I mean, just how are you gonna feel when you sit on the table and you flip up your leader and some guy goes, "Let me get the dabs and the monkeys"?
Bro, bro, there are 4 cards instantly going into the main deck the moment the Cell Surge leader gets put on board. Before anything happens, it's the swiftest 4-card swap out you'll ever see. Every single match.
It's so destructive.
Uh, I think Jordan Marco still thinks it's viable in BO1. I'm like, I don't know if it is.
I mean, look
It's
at Tampa. Look at Tampa. People literally would just had the anti no. You get no panties, like no purchase here. Sideboard extravaganza. Like Seltzer didn't even hit top 16 because people had the heat. Like people were just like, nah, I don't even. No, get out,
mm.
stop. F you. Like I could you imagine? Could you imagine just going in and being like, oh man, I barely got game one. Luckily, I'll just be able to close out game. Did he just discard a monkey?
Yes,
But
sir.
he's playing aggro. This is kind of okay. Well, let me just try this again. Dab. Let me establish his black mass sand so he can't dab me. Oh, okay. I'll discard the monkey. Wait. That's not what I wanted. Like it's actually disgusting. Like it's disgusting.
Yeah,
It's just,
it's. I will say it swings the pendulum the other way where, for some decks that were really crucial in being really good in best of one situations because people can't really afford to mainboard hate for it, it completely obliterates them. Cell Surge being like an example of them. I think AOD is like another deck that thrives in best of ones, but could have a lot of trouble if people side deck some key cards against it that totally hose it. Like you have unexpected
AOD.
turns in your sideboard, bro. Like good night. Like that's your entire board turn 3, turn 4, like easy. So
Homie, AOD took the fattest like stock drop over the weekend. Did you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't actually go for it.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to shade anybody because it takes a lot of balls or ovaries if you were playing and you're a female to get up on stream and play. It's a whole different realm. And I think lots of people don't understand that. You can play at a table and everybody's paying attention to their own games and you're just doing your thing. But when you're on stream, there's this like until you get used to playing on stream, there's this thing that gets under your skin. It's like the weight of knowing that everybody is breaking down your plays. If you scrape
Yeah.
somebody, it's gonna be hot. But if you get scraped, everybody just saw it. There's no going to your friends like, yeah, I lost, but it's because he drew the absolute nuts. I had nothing. I bricked, like I actually somehow like I opened up 5 cards instead of 6, and we didn't notice. So neither of us noticed, and so I was a card down, and he opened up the god for even nuts. He hatched me on turn 2. Did that make you can't do that? I mean, turn 3. It was turn 3. He just had the nuts, bro. No, there's none of that. None of that BS when you're on stream. People are like, this man had game. And then for some reason, he decided to play a card before swinging, getting himself poutine, Bergamoed. He's ass. Like there's nothing you just can't get
That's
away
tough.
from it. Like
That's tough.
it's just so when people get on stream, there's a different level of stress that goes into that match. So
There's
I don't like I
pressure.
said, I don't hate on anybody. But there was a dude on stream with AOD and the chat was killing him. The commentators started to lightly roast. One of the commentators won't name names, but he is the goat. He is the goat commentator. He definitely lent him that AOD deck, and at first he was like, "Yo, that's my buddy," and then afterwards he was like, "I do not claim this man." It was just
That's
whose
tough.
man is this? Puts on the sunshades, the Ray Charles. He said, "Whose man?" But it really is just kind of destructive. So that's what I mean by it took a stock drop. Like it just
Yeah.
it was rough. It was rough. But I mean the deck's got gas. It needs a specific line of piloting for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a tempo deck, right? And tempo decks are like a kind of aggro deck that kind of work differently than a typical aggro deck because an aggro deck, for the most part, you can kind of just make sure you sequence correctly. But with a tempo deck, it's this weird balance between control and speed. So so it definitely 100% takes that line in terms, and it's just decks like that in general. Um, I think a lot of decks that I like to play in these in online events because they're more memey because they make for better content. I think those take a stock drop. because but well ish and no, because I kind of take advantage of the fact that I play old leaders people don't remember anymore. So like when I played Remco Gita, um like I just knew, like my opponent asked me what frenzied burst does, and I'm like, bro, if you're asking me what frenzied burst does when it's on board, like game's over, dog. like like you don't have to worry about it does. We can just scoop here.
Look, look, it's a fact of life for anybody listening. It's like the 5 pieces of Exodia. If your opponent has to read 5 or more of your cards mid game, like they may not scoop it up then, but internally they have scooped up the game. Like you will catch them in some sort of interaction, unless your cards are doo doo. Let me preface that. If your cards are more than a 7.5 out of 10 in terms of quality, and they have to read 5 of them, the moment the 5th card is read, you probably have game, because they don't even know what you're doing, much less know how to work around it. Now, if you're rocking like freaking peel off brigade or like something ass terrible, and they have to read 5 of your cards, it's probably because they're relevant. If like you can gauge it off of their reaction. If they read a card and they go, "Oh, okay, that's pretty good," know that you may have a little bit of room to be comfortable. But if they read your card and kind of give it the and put it down, and then you make 5 more plays and they don't ask to read what anything else does, they're either incredibly dumb or your deck shouldn't have ever been sleeved up. Like it's just, it's just rules of the trade, bro. It's just how it is.
Yes,
How it
sir.
is.
So yeah, so that's basically the big up and ups with it. I'm very excited. Like I said, I'm not gonna make a big secret out of it. Red U7's probably what I'm gonna be saving up. So, and of course I'll be streaming my run. So whoever wants to check that out, you guys are welcome to join me. But that's I'm excited for it. I think it's the best way the game can move forward, realizing that we're probably gonna stick to a hybrid model of IRL and webcam events in the near future. So I think this is a good upgrade to that system, and it's very much welcome. And I'm excited to see where deck builders take it, how this changes up, the meta and what people expect to see. And if anything, like maybe like I think this even widens the gap between best of one and best of three. Like when we're doing meta analysis, when the Crossroad TCGs and the UniXs of the world do their breakdowns of what we saw at tournaments, I think there's going to have to be that disclaimer that is this a best of one format or is this a best of three format, and those formats are going to look legitimately different. You can get an idea because a powerful deck that doesn't lose to sideboard hate will probably be represented on both sides, but there are some decks that cannot thrive in best of ones that will probably make their showing in best of threes, whereas I think it was the inverse before. You saw decks that like would do extremely well in best of ones, but would have a very tough time in best of threes. And now we're seeing the inverse, where some decks just can't do it in best of ones now, but in best of threes they can definitely get there. So I think we're going to see a nice shift in how people talk about the meta, how the metas are going to shape out, and while we don't have a true 2 separate format game, we don't have rotation or anything like that, or we don't have UW block is a side event format thing. It's not really a standard based format. When we're talking about standard competitive play, it's going to be interesting seeing how those 2 formats delineate from each other and kind of how the game evolves from there.
So I agree with everything you said. It's kind of weird though, with pre-side now being a thing, right? I'm not gonna front. If your deck could not thrive in pre-side best of one, I don't think you need to take your deck anywhere. Like, I understand. Like, if you could look at your opponent's leader side before you sit down at the table and your deck just gets absolutely scooped up and put in the trash can.
I mean, here, like this is one of those decks where like VG Time. He's a content creator who plays he streams, he creates decks and stuff. He's got this deck where, so we all know how the time rules work, right? It's based on life. Like we don't do draws anymore. It's based on life. It's based on battle cards from there. Blah blah blah. So he built the yellow life flip Frieza deck, where the entire intent of the deck is to go to time. And because Life Frieza can't take life, it is guaranteed to win in overtime. That is a deck. That is a deck that will thrive in best of one format, regardless of sides. I don't think you're ever taking it to best of three, but like it's one of those decks where like some decks just do happen to do better in one format than another, and like that's honestly, I'm not gonna no front. That is probably like I would almost argue a tier 0 deck in this format.
Look at this. Look at this. All right. Yellow is so snapped that like in the words of the Rock, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what you're playing. Yellow, look, yellow life Frieza. Operative word, yellow.
True.
That deck will do something. That
True,
deck
but
will do something.
And it wins against Icarus because Icarus takes its own life and this doesn't.
Disgusting. Nasty, slanderous. I just look. All you need to know is I have issues with yellow.
Oh, of course.
It's gonna be a thing. I mean, I think. What's the next topic? I don't want to get off on a tangent, especially if I might be touching on another topic that you're going to use.
Hey, before we start talking about yellow for like the 6th podcast in a row.
Hey man, look, my last video, I said let's keep it concise, and I just pooped on it and I walked away. Okay.
The last thing basically that they talked about for the DBS Fest is they showed off the foils. So the stamps are like fine. They're DBS Fest. I actually like the DBS Fest kind of logo. It's not too bad. I don't like stamps typically, but I actually kind of like the DBS Fest one. So I don't mind it too much. The card selection is pretty dope. The Kai is a little subdued. You can't really tell the difference at first. But I think this is one of those where you're going to really be able to tell the difference when you see the cards in hand. Whereas the winner one will have like the proper gold foil stamping. So this is something we've seen where like there are some cards that don't come in gold foil stamping. So the SCR is a little bit weird because they typically do. So I think this is one of those where we'll just have to see what it looks like, see the differences. I think they'll be better IRL than they are on there, but they're decent cards. My biggest point of contention is the event pack. I think the event pack is pretty solid overall. They're like across the board, like I think I joked about it in an earlier podcast a few weeks ago, but like I've rescinded on that. I think in general this is actually a pretty solid event pack. But I don't think I'm a fan of this foiling personally. I think the card selection is dope, but I think the style is maybe the weakest we've ever gotten for an event pack.
The silver streaks.
Yeah, just the streaks coming from the bottom left corner. Like I don't think it's all that hot. Like it just yeah, I don't think it's
Are you hating? Are you hating, my guy?
A little bit. It's just not my thing. It looks not great. I mean, maybe maybe I just need these in my hand, and maybe that'll make the difference. But at the moment, they're not my preferred art style.
See, once again, I'm on like my favorite part about this podcast. This podcast allows me to be more of the rambunctious that you'll kind of. This is literally like a good 70%, like not halfway point, but a little further than that between what you'll see on my channel and how I am off screen. And what I gotta say is, when it comes to reprints like this, none of these are new cards. These are all reprints. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if the event stamp was a poop emoji. These are reprints of valid cards. And like, frankly, like if you're just like, judging the aesthetic of it like George is, that's cool. He's just evaluating the aesthetic. But if I ever hear someone complaining about a reprint Piccolo Jr. Descendant, like, get your bands up and buy the OG SPRs, or shut the hell up and move on with your cards. Like, it's just these are reprints, and they are going in. And I love this sort of thing because it'll bring down the higher parts of the market a little bit. It'll allow these lower parts of the market to be very cheap. Everybody will be able to get the cards they need, and it'll lead to people being able to play more decks. Like you would be so surprised how many people sit going into tournaments with decks that they know aren't the best decks that they know. Like sometimes people get the wrong idea in their head. They're like, well, if you want to play meta, you'll buy meta, and if you come in here with a scrub deck, you come in with a scrub deck. Okay, but like, look, Jonathan isn't here with Sin Shenron because he thinks it's the best deck. Jonathan is here with Sin Shenron because he's built the deck since day one. He doesn't have to go and reinvest into another color. And all he's had to really do is pick up a couple more cards from here till now. And so he's here with Sin Shenron. When you have so many reprints of valuable cards, you get more people being able to play the decks they want to play because of their budgets. And some people do have budgets. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I agree with George. Silver Streaks, kind of odd, but Silver Streaks will get there.
Yeah, it looks like splooge coming out of the corner. Like if we're like not gonna front, like it's just not a look.
No. If they really wanted to screw with us, they should have hit us with a Broly, with a reprint of Broly the Awakened Demon. Wait, is that the card? Is that the card?
The I think it's like Demonic Embrace or something like that.
Oh, where is it? Where is it? You know the one I'm talking about, right? Where it's just his face?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with like the shattered glass or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like if they hit us with that, like if they literally hit us with that one, but with the silver streaks across the side. Pages. I would collect pages on me.
But yeah, even me, like I don't have Eradicator of Peace. I have one. And I played. There are a lot of red green decks that I play or have been wanting to play for stream, and I just didn't value Eradicator of Peace for the price they were at. So I was just like, I'll just wait. They'll get reprinted eventually, and I think great pickup all across the board. I know I made some objections about Higher Dragon, and I still kind of do. And I realized I was mulling over it this past week, because I know we also had made the argument that TPs would be a great way to replicate what OTS packs do and give people that max rarity option for their decks, right? And then Higher Dragon we talked about would be a super solid pick for like an OTS pack, to kind of incentivize people to pick them up. And then like I was thinking of how it was funny how about we memed about the Higher Dragon in the event pack, but then talked about how it would be a great pickup as an OTS quote unquote ultimate rare foil reprint. If the TPs ever became that, and I think I recognize that it's probably just because of the purpose that the event packs serve, in being a place where people can pick up cards that have typically needed reprints. So as a reprint avenue, I feel like Higher Dragon was a whiff here. But if the product was more represented as a way to bling out your decks and would have value behind it, because event packs never hold their value. Event packs are almost worthless by the time competitive season is over because the market's flooded with them. So I think it might just be the intent of the pack that makes the Higher Dragon less appealing here than it would in an alternative pack that was meant to lux out your deck. I think it's kind of what I came to realize on that front.
This is facts. There's actually nothing for me to add on to that.
Yeah.
Like, that's how facts everything there was. It was a little bit of a miss. Like, look, you can't reprint Hero Dragon when you've already made foil Sleepy Baby Dragon. Like, they peaked and then they made a reprint beneath the peak. That
Sleepy Dragon, like from a distance, just looks like a gold card too. Like just because of like the orange back, like it is a very jarring card to see from a distance. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the gist of what's happening with DBS Fest. So positive changes all around. And if anything, like this is a huge write-up. Like if you guys haven't actually bothered reading the write-up that they wrote, I'm not going to reread it all here, but I definitely recommend you guys to go check out their Facebook page. Like if anyone has the audacity to say Bandai doesn't listen, you guys are wild. And Bandai has been listening for an incredibly long time. They have always imposed changes that the community has pushed for. Just sometimes you see them later because card games are developed months in advance, sets are developed months in advance. You're not always going to see those changes right away. But like Bandai listens, man. Like and even if they quote unquote listen, they didn't have to justify it by giving us 5 to 6 paragraphs of explanations. So like kudos to Bandai. I know the community is not easy to deal with, and like them listening and responding in the way they do has been phenomenal in my opinion.
Yes, I had a little bit of a rant towards the end of my last video.
I heard.
I was basically just like, "Oh, you heard it? Yeah, I forgot. You're one of those content creators that watches other people's content. Good on you, my guy." It was just like, it's just so stupid. Like people just don't seem to understand that like Bandai does listen. And like George just said, there is a curve to when cards are developed, when they're printed and things like that, which makes it even funnier when people say have certain like notions. Like on my channel, I just put up a video, selfless plug, shameless plug, shameless self plug. There we go. When there's no such thing as a selfless plug, is there? I don't think so. The point is though, people were talking about green needing some help, green needing to be fixed. And it's funny to me because the reason why I put like in my little Facebook post, like, this is what I think every color needs to go through to be better balanced next format. And then in parentheses, I said, except green, sorry, you're too far behind, is because looking at the changes I was like thinking about, and it is a good video if I don't say so myself. So go look at that if you haven't already. But going through those changes, there's nothing that could come off the ban list that makes green skyrocket up in power.
Nope.
And because there's nothing that can come off the ban list to shake up green's game, combined with the fact that most cards are designed and starting to be put into print about 4 or 5 months ahead of time. They're like designed like 4 or 5 months at a time. They're put into print like maybe a couple months before. There is no way that this set could bring green back. There just isn't. Unless we get a promo set, like next tournament set and next TP. Like actually, that's not this set. So yeah, between this TP, the tournament card that we just saw, and this card set, those are all the new cards, and none of them are bringing, like, there are some cool text, but none of them are bringing green to the forefront of the metagame. And nothing on the ban list coming off could do that either. So when I say that, sorry, green, you were too far behind, I mean it. We will have to wait until next set for green to be stupid or even competitive. Like, unless we get like some Zamasu the Eliminator type BS for green, like sometime down the competitive format. And even then, I think that would actually be the next set. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think that if handled correctly, the ban list could probably make everybody kind of twerk a little harder in the competitive format minus green. It's just that I do also think that it's going to be a little rough for them to moderate yellow. Yellow is the untamed thicket. And when I say that yellow is like gross, let me just key you in on this. And if you don't believe me, just test hard enough and I swear you'll catch up. Like, love you, boo. But you could ban most relevant cards that yellow has out right now, and yellow would still play next format.
There are archetypes are so good. Like,
if you just yeah, George is not wrong. Like, if you like, look, we can already kind of assume that Turles and Steadfast almost have diplomatic immunity. If those cards got touched, I would be very, very surprised because they're so new. There's no, like, Sand Showdown already was kind of a weird set in terms of sales. I don't know how it's sold in terms of like Bandai's views, but I can tell you that from a player standpoint, that was you went to your pre-release and you were out. Like, you may have bought a case if you're a collector and you needed that pan, but like, it just was not a chase set. Boxes were selling for $10-15 less than their MSRP.
Bro, let me hit you with this before. Like, yeah, let me hit you with this before, like, you know, SCR is ignored because there's like 4 SCRs in the set. There are 2 SRs worth $12 right now between Steadfast and Turles. Every other SPR and SR in the set currently is worth $4 or less. That's the state of Saiyan Showdown post release.
Interesting.
It's a hard neg set. It is pull, pan, or bust. Actually, you pull SS4, you kind of pull out pretty okay too. But if you don't pull a secret, the set is a hard neg.
Yeah, I mean, literally, there's only a couple cards you could pull that don't make the set a neg. So Sand Showdown wasn't really profitable. So my thing is, give me a moment. I'm getting back on the rails. My brain went to space. Like,
yeah. Sorry about that. It was too good of an interjection.
Oh no, you're good. You are so good. My main thing is I was talking about the sales. I was talking about where the stuff was in terms of money. Huh.
All right, let me help. Let me help with the rewind here. So you're talking about, where yellow and all the other decks are placing in the format,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. There
then
we
you
go.
talked about how
I'm
saying
back.
showdown. All right, cool.
I'm back. I'm on top of it now. I got you. I got you. So we can assume that Turles and Steadfast have diplomatic immunity because I don't think there's no shot they're going to kneecap they're going to kneecap the only cards worth of value in the set. So Turles and Steadfast, they're both super new. That was really loud. They're super new, and so I just don't believe that they're going to just snap those in half. But like the thing is, um, had a play group that's been testing without Power of a Super Saiyan. That's been testing, without like, it's crazy when you talk about banning Power of a Super Saiyan, and then the homies start testing without Power of a Super Saiyan, and people are still getting put in dumpsters. It's scary.
Yeah.
It is scary. You can put Power of a Super Saiyan out. Final Flash will hurt, but most people tech Final Flash at too. Like, to be honest, to hurt yellow, you need to touch the slug that stops people from getting out of like bounds. You need to honestly on it. Like, I know lots of people are just like, well, it's a French card. SS4 Annihilation needs to go.
That card's pretty
Absolute Annihilation.
toxic.
That card needs to go. Like, my main issue with yellow, and I'll repeat it here, but there's much more in that video. So again, go watch the video. Yellow is crazy right now. Absolutely crazy. Yellow has floodgates in the form of riposte, slug, Annihilation. Slug stops people from drawing. Annihilation stops people from playing free cards. And you might think that's good, but defensive free cards are definitely essential to the game because defending has always been less advantageous than attacking. So defensive cards that are kind of free kind of help balance that. And SS4 Annihilation kind of hurts your free like plays, like your free defensive plays, your negates, things like that. They've got freaking like just counterplays out the wazoo, but that's their identity to begin with, so I don't really mind that as much. But now they also have destruction. Dragon Fist and Turles are powerhouses, and then you move to the fact that when you ask yourself, how do you get around these built-in color floodgates? And you're like, well, there's Vegeta's Final Flash. There's Vegeta's Final Flash is pretty good. There's Vegeta striving to be the best is pretty good. But they're playing all that free-ish. You can use SS4 Annihilation. It was on the list, but it's also the cure and the cancer. And then you've also got Slug, which stops people from just making these stupid, huge. And then you think about it, and it's all in yellow. When yellow's best counter are other yellow decks, what is that? Like the rest of the format's just sitting here starving, looking at like, man, I wish I could play with the big boys. And that's just like that. It's not cool. Like there's so many things you'd have to hit before yellow could calm the heck down. And even if you were to ban Power of a Super Saiyan right now, ban Slug, and ban Annihilate, next set, Trunks and Zamasu are still going to be up in people's cheeks doing dumb stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we touch this? It's going to be really scary. Like now, granted, there are some ripple effects. You hurt some of the extra cards, and they have to actually play energy for Black Kamehameha. Black Kamehameha snapped in half. Not having a free extra card allows riposte to slow down. They could semi-limit riposte. That would help things. It's just the part I'm most afraid about is there's no easy way to touch yellow. You're going to have to hit it hard, and that's going to upset people.
Yeah,
It's going to upset a lot of people.
And it's tough because I don't think yellow, and I've heard this a lot from a lot of competitors. It's not like we think yellow is, in the grand scheme of things, holistically, like completely absurd, right? Like the things it's doing aren't insane in a vacuum. It is the fact that it just is incredibly consistent at doing it and does a whole lot of it. So everyone I've talked to has said yellow should be tuned, but I don't know how you tune yellow without it not still being as absurd. So like I don't know. It sucks because I do feel like you're saying, like it might feel like we might actually just have to neuter the color because the card pool has too many good cards. Which sucks because I don't think anyone feels like yellow needs to be like wiped out of the face of the format, right? Like this isn't a 1-2 swap type situation. This isn't a Super Shenron type situation. This is very much the case of just having too many good cards. So it's like, how do you hurt that without killing it? But if you don't kill it, it's basically still best in format, and it's just like, ugh.
I mean, and
It's such a tough solve.
it is. And one of the main issues I'm finding is that like Bandai kind of worked themselves into a corner because this would not be the same if they did not print a couple cards. Steadfast and Turles should not cantrip. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, look, Giant Ball is Giant Ball for a reason. You can't combo with it. It's an extra card, but you can tap some stuff and you can draw a card. Steadfast should not draw, become a blocker. Like, it should not draw, become a blocker, and then on top of becoming a blocker, like, be able to just tap something. And then, if you don't ever need it, it can still be a counter for your inevitable shotgun behind Champa. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Cooler needs to get the hell up out of here. It's overall, the main issue is there's so many cards you need to hit. Like, to tune yellow, like 3-4 cards need to go on the ban list. And that would feel, I know a lot of people would have a problem with that. Like, if tomorrow they just straight up were like, all right, the format's saved, Power of Super Saiyan, ban, Annihilation, ban, Slug, ban, and dun, da, 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 Cooler, ban, and BT Dubs, Bergamo, ban, people will be like, what the fuck is this? I don't think anybody, like, yes, I would be happy, but I would also be looking at that list like, wow, like, y'all could have just said through yellow list. Like, but at the same time, the worst part is that would lead to a much healthier format. Like, yellow can still tap down all your ish. Yellow can still tap down your ish and follow it up with a Turles. What yellow is not going to do is completely control the board while forcing you to not be able to add cards from your deck to your hand. What they're not going to do is lock you out of your sparking negates and make all of your extra cards, if you play them, cost more. They won't be able to hit you with specific floodgates that only yellow has access to, but they're still going to be able to do whatever yellow does. So to be honest, as whack as that would be, I think that would balance the game a lot more. Like, I just sometimes they don't test how their cards work, and it's just evident. Like, Power of Super Saiyan being a free card and countering some of the best cards they made in the same set. It's like, why? What possessed you to think that Divine Presence should come into the same battle phase? In the same battle phase, somebody should for free be able to just tap it, be like, "Nah, I'm good," and be like, "All right, my boss card just got free played out. That's excellent, actually. I love that." Like, this is, and then
Didn't even
at the
cost them a card.
I know, yeah, they can't trip. Like, you pay 2 energy, you combo 2 cards, pay 2 energy, and they went free, and then tapped your shit down. Like, and that's the beauty about yellow. And like George was saying, like, the cards aren't broken individually, but you just never really run out of cards. I went into it on the video about the tournament coverage. Gogeta Zeno barely beat Rios in the finals. Gogeta Zeno was down at 3 or 2 cards in deck, and Rios lost by 5K. So let me just put it out there. And the most aggressive deck in the format ran through almost every single card in his deck and won a shotgun by 5K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, the sheer stopping power of yellow is ridiculous. If yellow can stop your entire push 1 time, 2 times a game, that's cool. But when yellow can do that consecutively 4 turns in a row and then food you on top of the turn list, like, that's not Gucci, bro. That's not Gucci. And it's like, well, there are 1-ofs and there. Look, if they were drawing enough cards to sequentially lock you out of doing damage for 3 turns straight, I guarantee you they drew into their 1-ofs unless they were in life 2. That foo, it's in hand. That SCR, it's in hand. Like, so yeah. this ban list is gonna have to slap, or you're looking at yellow being the dominant color for the third list in a row.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, like
hate to see it.
even just looking at the top 16, we're not going to talk about it too much because it's just like same old format. Nothing on here really shocks me. I guess Soul Striker switching to a red pivot to deal with Icarus better is kind of hot. Two blue red Soul Strikers in the top 16, but six Icarus decks composing of about 40% of the top 16 is absolutely absurd. And like, but the rest of the format look the same. Like you have your Soul Strikers, you got that. You have your Yellow Golden, your 121, your 116, your Gogeta, King Cold, which is shown that the deck can get there. Vegex that can get there if it high rolls a day. And then Jiren is probably like the weirdest one here. But even then, Jiren has had a few like odd tops here and there. So I don't know. Like I don't really care that much to talk about like top cuts in this format anymore because they all look the same. Like it is.
I mean, are we gonna call Soul Striker Red Blue Soul Striker, or are we just gonna call it Invoker Soul Striker? Because it was dead ass the Invoker package in a Soul Striker deck. Like, this man was playing Rival Seekers. He killed a dude with Cat Blow. I was like, nice deck, dude. I mean, granted, I applaud you. It was cool that you were running it, but it was just like in the larger scheme of the meme of Soul Striker being Soul Striker, we are once again at a point where we can just be like, what if, hear me out, what if we just played this deck, but with this leader? And it works! It works! Soul Striker needs to chill!
Yeah, so, that's I don't know. I still hear some people saying like, yeah, they're not gonna do it. He's in the collector set. I'm like, y'all have way too much trust in the collector set.
I came to a conclusion. Once again, gone in my self-proclaimed award-winning video that I released today. Please watch it. I'm giving you guys half the secrets. Please just watch it, support me. But they can't touch Soul Striker, unfortunately. I just thought about it. Like, they can touch Soul Striker, but if they touch Soul Striker, you might as well just put a gun to Blue's face and just
yes, sir. Yep.
Because I like Soul Striker is the hands down best blue leader that's in the game. Generically does what it needs to do, gets people out of the way, you recycle energy. Now, if you notice, no other blue deck is topping. It's just not happening.
No.
So if you kill Soul Striker, you are effectively removing blue from the entire format.
Yeah.
And you're not just doing it for one format, you're doing it until they release a better blue leader. And let's face it, sets come out about 3 to 4 months between each other. So chances are set 17 is already designed. They are doing some fine tuning, maybe they're doing some preliminary testing. I don't know what testing looks like in Bandai headquarters. Maybe they just like shine flashlights at it and test the foil. It's certainly not the effects, but chances are these cards are set in stone. So if they were to ban Soul Striker right now, you were potentially looking at half a year where we don't have blue.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Like it'll sound absurd, but I don't even think the issue to fix blue is a leader, right? Like getting rid of Soul Striker, I don't think inherently what we need are better leaders because we've had some half decent leaders. What we need are cards like, and it's gonna be wild because it's eroded now, but we're gonna need cards like Buster Cannon. I think it's called Buster Cannon, right? The blue Bojack card that got eroded.
Galactic Buster.
Galactic Buster, yeah. So we need a like. Here's the thing. And Sublet talks about it so like eloquently, whenever it comes up. But effectively, what Galactic Buster is, it solved an issue for blue. Because blue inherently has issues dealing with board. Anytime you have a blue deck can deal with board, it's because it's splashing into other colors to be able to do that. So you're using yellow for arrivals, you're using red for arrivals. Blue always gets paired because inherently blue can't deal with board. And Galactic Buster gave decks the opportunity to actually interact. And when Galactic Buster was around, we had 5 to 6 viable blue decks. Now, there's an argument to be made that like every blue deck was running Galactic Buster, but that, if anything, that just showcases the issue with blue at the moment and highlights it. But nevertheless, yes, every deck was running for that. But like, for how long were red decks always running 4 of Topos? You know, how long are yellow decks running 4 Power Super Saiyan, 4 Repose, 4? Like, so clearly that's not an issue, right? Like the decks run staples. That's just the thing. So But nevertheless, we saw 5 to 6. We saw all the generic blue leaders: Vegito, SS3, Soul Striker. We saw SS4 Ramp. And even then, the fringe blue decks were inherently way more playable because now their strategies were able to flourish because they had ways to deal with board where this game is immensely board centric, especially when we're dealing with crap like Slug and stuff like that. So, but now we got rid of Galactic Buster. So now what can blue do? Well, blue has to take the only thing it does extremely well, which is things like hand advantage and value by energy manipulation, and it is forced to take the one deck that sets that to 11, which is Soul Striker. So just off the back of being able to do Saint Instincts for free, to be able to awaken early and being able to be 2 energy up every single one of your opponents turn 3 onwards and effectively closing out the game using 10 more energy than they did, is basically the only thing blue can really do right now to compete. And it is ridiculous that blue needs to be 10 energy up their opponent by the end of the match to be able to win. Like, that is absurd. So it's just like, so it's that is the inherent issue with blue right now. So you get rid of Soul Striker and you get rid of blue's only means to be able to push its advantage far enough that it is viable at the table. Now, nevertheless, I do think blue is still unexplored in the sense that people don't explore other blue leaders enough. I think there are a few that will still do well if they high roll. Things like the Seten Zamasu is still a deck that could get there if people aren't expecting it, and if it high rolls for the day, stuff like that. But nevertheless, consistently, we are not seeing blue at the top. And final note, I don't want to hear anybody in the comments or come at me and be like, well, Android 21 and 16, where those aren't blue decks. Those are blue-green decks that use like over 80% of their deck are archetype cards or blue-green cards. Okay, those are not inherent blue decks. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, let me tell you, the uninformed masses about a couple things. You hear me? All right. If you go back to the chapter I like to call Color Identity Series, it's a 4-part series. You should definitely go look at that too. Blue, like George said, has fundamental issues. But the main thing I dislike about blue is they pigeonhole themselves. Being the only color that has consistent draw on half their cards, being the only color that deals around untapping energy, Bandai has rightfully so been afraid to give them pound for pound, the same amount of like bombs as other colors, because you play 4-drop in red and you've just potentially like died the next turn. If your opponent has gas after you've made your push, you're gone. That's why cards like Hit were so good, because they were effectively neutering your opponent's ability to clap back at you while progressing your board state. Now, blue is the only color in the game that can drop a 4-drop bomb and then open up half their energy between the end of their turn, your turn. I mean, like these guys are playing Majin Buu Unison plus zeroing, swinging at you, and then you open up your turn, and they made a 4-cost play, and they have 3 energy open on your turn, and because of this, they can't give them the same bombs. So most of blue's top end stuff is so overcosted because blue's the only color that can play that amount of energy and do that thing. And this inherently hurts all the blue leaders, because if a blue leader doesn't untap energy, he can't play blue cards the way blue cards were designed to be played. Any blue deck that can't make excess energy is a blue deck that goes, wow, I'm actually tapping 4 for this shit.
Yeah.
That yeah, that doesn't feel too good. And so you start gravitating towards the blue decks that can untap their shit. Soul Striker, doing God's work, untapping energy all the time. Zamasu specifically works because you're using Xeno Unison. You were gaining an extra energy per turn. And with that energy, he can either turn it into a second draw and a second swing with the leader. He can turn it into a bottom deck, but you were actually playing with more energy plus blue. And that allows you to play on curve and still use untapped things like Sensu Bean. It's just, you have to be able to, just the way they design blue, you have to be able to untap more than the average leader to do this. And since they don't make every blue leader untap, not every blue leader is usable. And that's unfortunate. In the video I just did today, I just said that we don't need cards to power creep Soul Striker. Soul Striker is too generic, in my opinion. We need cards that do better effects than Soul Striker, but not as wide effects. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it is that. Like, would you play a leader that doesn't draw, but it untapped 3 energy? I'm not saying that's a good idea,
Uh...
but like, just hear me out on that one. Like, we can have things that do more extremes, but don't just do as wide as Soul Striker. You know, Soul Striker can awaken at high life, and blue is a color that can protect its life fairly well, unless you're playing red. If you're playing red, I mean, go in, fam. But like, it's just blue has some design issues. And unfortunately, the only way I think they can get around the design issues is if they specifically try to like change blue fundamentally. And we're kind of late in the game. Like, we are kind of late in the game for that. Like, I think we really are.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just the design of blue inherently, because like they have to design with the idea that blue gets 2-ish extra energy every turn, you know, guaranteed with Soul Striker, and kind of ish between Dimension Magic and Beans with other, you know, other blue generic blue decks. So the entire design of blue was created with these restraints or restrictions in mind, which means that you get rid of those tools, you know, in UW only format, getting rid of Being Dimension Magic in a world where they ban Soul Striker, getting rid of the only viable leader that can do the blue stuff consistently. And now you're in a spot where it's just like, well, now my entire card pool is designed behind this thing that I can't consistently do yet. And even then, um, my effects aren't as powerful as things that other colors are doing in the color because I'm paying an overcost for them because XYZ. So it's tough because I do think Soul Striker needs to go, but I think it needs to be one of those things where I need to time it between when they realize they're gonna try and fix blue and they bring in the new stuff and then ban them before that stuff comes in. And then like now you're in a position where they've opened up design space. Blue can be developed more freely because I do think he needs to be banned on design front for sure. You know, if Mecha Frieza and Yellow Broly went for those similar reasons, he's got to go. And I love the leader, so it's not like it's coming from a place of spite. But I think in terms of the health of the long-term health of blue, that's just kind of like the future we need to look at and probably accept for that leader moving forward. So
I definitely agree. It's no, I definitely agree on that one. It's just so weird. It's such a weird thing because like it's not broken enough to be banned off of brokenness, but like you said, it limits design space. They definitely need to make some good replacements. We can't have Soul Striker go as is. It'll fall to green levels of stupidity. And nobody wants that. Like, if Soul Striker gets banned right now, we're essentially looking at a yellow black format. If like yellow doesn't get touched the way it does or it needs to, and if black doesn't get trimmed. And black, honestly, black does need to get trimmed because we are at a point where like Gogeta Zeno is almost in the Vegek / Dark Broly spot. Like, why are you playing a black leader that's not Gogeta Zeno? If you can convince me, it works, but chances are you can't.
yeah,
Like most of the other things you want to do, like you want to play control, pick another color. Like, don't talk to me about like Xeno San. It has cards, but it doesn't quite have enough. Don't like you could play a kind of a tempo Vegex, but realistically, you can play other colors to better like effects for those same kind of roles, unless you want to play aggro. And if you're playing aggro, it's because he doesn't know. So there's a lot of trimming that needs to go around. But yeah, Soul Striker is literally carrying blue on his back right now. In fact, as of next set, I am willing to estimate that Goku will be holding 2 colors on his back in terms of the meta, and that will be red and blue. And don't get me wrong, I don't actually think UI Goku is going to break the format unless I don't think it's going to stomp the meta unless yellow gets dealt with accordingly. If yellow gets dealt with hard enough, I think this is going to have a chance to shine. But as it is, I as much as I like UI, just stress testing some of the new decks. Like I've said it before in our podcast, I have posed 7 to 9 attacks per turn for 3 turns straight. And there just got to a point where I was like, this guy still has a grip of 15. He's only used 4 power of a Super Saiyan. He's charged 1 steadfast. I haven't seen a riposte yet. I think I'm going to lose. Like, I looked at the number of cards in my deck, and I was like, I simply cannot keep drawing long enough. Like, your leader actually is like almost a mandatory. You draw 2 cards, and then you have to like warp 1. Like, I literally can't swing with my leader. I like it just got to a point where I was like, I can no longer press this man. And so I scooped. Like, and if that deck can do that, if Black Trunks can get to that point, if we are looking at, Gogeta Zeno fishing for one of four cards in his last four cards of his deck, I am not quite sure if Burst Goku is going to be able to go that long in a game versus
Yeah.
Yellow.
Yeah.
So yellow needs to calm the hell down. I'm not even saying like Burst Goku can't swing. Burst Goku can swing. I'm saying I don't know if Burst Goku can sit there for 8 turns and still have a deck, even at 60 cards.
Yeah. Which, like, every deck for Burst Goku guys, for those guys who haven't been really like appropriately test building, should 100% be 55 to 60 cards. Um, I think you are playing way too close to the sun if you're not leaning on the higher end of the deck building restraints for that one. Ugh.
Well,
But yeah, so that's generally our take. Of course, that's our weekly. Here's why we hate yellow in the format chat, along with just general consensus around the new best of one format. What tournaments are looking like right now, and what things are gonna look like in March. So I'm very excited. The big things now are just. I think we're gonna get a couple of more of these PBG events, which is cool. At least it keeps, it's basically the kickstart, even though it's not Bandai official. It's still the kickstart to kind of the competitive season, which is cool. So seeing people do meta breakdowns and stuff like that are things I'm really excited for. I'm excited for Battle Hour, just to showcase the God Rare. Well, I mean, again, it's still a prediction, but I think it would make sense that the place where we have the most eyes of non-Dragon Ball TCG players would be that kind of event. So that's exciting. And then DBS Fest is something definitely I'm looking forward to now. I mean, I was looking forward to it before, but it being an event that should cap out and have more people participate now that the event has opened up its format. It's exciting. And best of one pre-side, which all the locals I'm playing at the moment are testing out that format. So going to be trying out for the first time there, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that.
hell yeah.
So with that said, those are our main topics for today. We're going to go ahead and jump into the SC mailbag. Of course, if you guys want to submit a question to the show, you guys are welcome to tweet at us with the hashtag SC mailbag or to jump on our Discords. There is the section SC mailbag in my lounge Discord. You guys can go ahead and ask your questions there and you'll have your questions answered on the show. So we do have a few that we didn't end up getting to last episode because what I suspected being our shorter episode ended up being the longest episode we ever recorded. So we'll just go ahead and jump onto those for today. So kicking us off, we have our first question from Slasher XR8. Question: between the most important things that need to be done in Super, what is the one thing that needs most attention? Reboot leaders, balance, archetype, reprints, erratas, bans, and limits. And how do you truly feel about the current state of the meta compared to previous years?
Can you repeat that one more time? That was kind of a long one.
Basically, what aspect of the game do we think needs the most attention? So between things like balance, how archetypes are created, the reprints, the ban and limited list, what needs the biggest attention?
Can I go?
Yeah, go for it.
It's design. So I don't know who you is, and I first off want to thank you for putting something in the mailbox, the mailbag. But out of your list of like 4 or 5 points, half of them immediately get yeeted if you have proper design. Proper design and testing will avoid erratas and bans. Like that's just kind of how things go, and things will slip through the cracks. But yeah, like if things are tested in a way that they should be, you don't have to go and go, ah, shit, like we really overtuned this card, because some of these things will be caught on the testing floor. They won't even be put on real cards before somebody's like, a free card that taps a unison or a battle card in the battle. It also draws you a card, but also can be used as a negate if you don't want to use it as a free. That's kind of snap. And they'd be like, you know what? You might be right. Or somebody could have been like, hey, look, uh Ultra Instinct Goku is that dude, but blue has absolutely no outs to this card in this format. Like, help. And then they might have been like, okay, wait a second. Let's make a 3-cost arrival card or something, or a 3-cost card that maybe ignores barrier. Maybe like a 4-cost card. I don't know how you want to answer it. But they could have maybe given blue a higher costed out to that card. Because like if anything can prove it, like Gen Con, I just faced 5 blue matchups and you just resolved as many copies of Divine Presence as you could.
Yeah,
And
just
it
look
was
at
just
it.
a game. They're just like, wow, I'm getting swung on a lot, aren't I? Yep. Do you have negates? Yep. Next turn, do you still have negates? Nope. All right, well, drop them cards. I only have so much combo power. Where's Hatch? like
Yeah,
that's just kind of how it went. And so yeah, I think it's a couple of yours can be rolled up in one. Like how they build archetype stuff like that. I consider that design and testing. R&D. R&D needs to be better because then less of your cards end up slipping through the cracks. Less of your cards end up becoming toxic, and you don't need to change so much after the fact.
yeah, 100%. I think on my front, it's like I agree with everything Chris said. I think if I had to pick, I would just say immediately it's probably the ban list. I think the format needs to be quote unquote fixed in a way that it feels a little more spread out and not as kind of gate kept by yellow. But beyond that absolute immediate need, I think it's 100% design also. I think go back to the room and try and find that balance. Like, take notes from some of your sets that were really successful, but didn't completely warp the game around them. I think Supreme Rivalry is a set I keep on going back to talking about. Like, that was a set that introduced some great archetypes, a lot of playable cards. Maybe a little bit too archetypey, like, King Cold, for example, being a deck that's like 90% archetype cards, like maybe a little bit too, deck space. But like in general, they had playable leaders that still see play today, that still see tops today. They had good, solid SRs that were represented in a multitude of decks, but it didn't warp the game the same way set 10, set 11 did. So I think looking back on sets like those and recognizing what did them well, but, trying to understand where the current meta is at the moment and where it could go from there is probably the biggest thing. So yeah, I think design, like I said, catches like 3 different aspects between balance, archetypes, bans, erratas, and yada yada, and that's probably what the game needs the most right now. So, all
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I didn't even think to differentiate between immediate need. I mean, immediate need, yes, the ban list. Things need to get shot. The club needs to get shot. Club tap your shit needs to be shot indiscriminately. There will be casualties that people didn't want, but overall, the club was kind of sketch, and it was in a bad part of the neighborhood, and there were some bad people taken out. So look, yeah, that's true. No, I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Yeah. As a second part, how do you feel about the current state of the meta? I mean, every single podcast so far, like this podcast is like the Complain About Yellow podcast featuring the Super Combo podcast. But you should have a general idea of what our ideas of the meta are. But like, if we're trying to compare to previous years, I actually think, nevertheless, it's still a skill intensive format, and it's actually a pretty fun format. Like, it's frustrating because we've kind of just been in the same like limbo for the past couple of sets now, so it feels like it's been forever. But if we're trying to look at it retrospectively and holistically as the game, like, it's a pretty good spot, right? Like, it's not degenerate to the levels of 1-2 swap. There's no tier 0 decks. There's a deck that's incredibly tier 1 beyond belief, but we're not at a spot like those where it's like it felt stupid to play the game right out of the gate on turn 1. So I think in general it's not the best format we've ever had, but I think honestly if you tune a couple things, you tune yellow, you bump up green, and I think we're actually maybe arguably in the best format this game has ever had, or at least rivaling what I consider to be the best format the game ever had, which was search format. So
All right, I will. I'll hit you with this. I'll hit people with this pretty hard. All right, y'all may not want to hear this. I'll put that out there. Y'all may not want to hear this. In terms of skill, this format has never, like, there have been very few times in the game where the skill cap for a format has been this high.
Yeah.
If you were playing yellow versus yellow, you were in for some of potentially the most skill intensive matches that this game has ever had. There's a whole bunch of options. Both players are able to have a whole bunch of options. There are outs to each other's outs to each other's outs within this color. The issue with this format isn't its level of skill intensity, but its level of breathing room for decks to survive. Right now, you are essentially looking at Soul Striker, Gogeta Zeno, or Icarus. And if not, you're really just looking at an uphill battle that you don't technically even need to fight. You are going in with a handicap if you are not playing one of those decks. Cell Surge is still a very strong deck, but it is one of the easiest decks to hate on right now. And unfortunately, very fortunately, actually, all the hate is generic. So that's just kind of that. But yeah, that's my main take on the format. It's not good if you like being able to play a different deck every tournament. But if you want to know interactions, if you want to know that your time spent just testing your Soul Striker or your Icarus deck or your Gogeta Zeno deck, your time spent is going to directly translate to how well you do. This is one of those formats. You pick up Icarus and you know your matchup in and out, and you watch how the meta shifts, you know which text to put in, you know how to side correctly, you're going to see success. And that is the mark of a skill intensive format.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so moving on to the next question. Neek asks, what are your best memories from a set release? Anyone pull an SCR, bought one too many boxes, have a deck that they were hyped for but ended up being unplayable? I don't really think I do, to be honest. I think in that maybe that's just because like I consume the game in such a different way than typical people because I make content around it. Um, so like sets are like not fresh to me on release, and like I kind of know what the meta is gonna look like beforehand. So, I guess my best set release would probably be the first one, which was set 4. I think is when I came in. So just because that was like my first real interaction with like my local game store and experiencing. So I think on that front it would probably be that. But in general, every set release is a good time for me. I think I really enjoy pre-release. It's unfortunate that sealed isn't a format that's actually like super viable as a side format in our game outside of just doing it for the shits of doing it. But I love pre-release. I think it's a great way to dig around with everyone at the game store. Play with leaders that we would never dare play with outside of the pre-release. And funny enough, like yeah, I think it's pre-releases. If we're pre-releases in general are probably my favorite memories. Like there are some leaders that are absolutely broken in pre-release format. Like if you get Dr. Euro in pre-release format in like a pre-release format sealed, you're actually broken because it is guaranteed removal every single turn. Like it's actually busted. So I think that's the most fun. I would say just pre-releases in general have always been a great time for me in terms of just being able to play the game in a way that is more casual, more fun, that we don't typically get to experience just because of the nature of our game.
I dig it. I definitely dig it. In terms of memory, my favorite memory is a pull memory. Because like I said a bunch of times in content all over the place, I stopped playing after set 6 and didn't get back into the game until set 11. But I came back to a pre-release in set 9, shook hands with all the homies. Was actually seeing a fellow weeb at the time, so she was like, "Yeah, I don't really want to go home yet, so I'll go to your pre-release." I was like, "Bold choice, Cotton. See how it pays off." Like, you never want to take that. Like, I mean, if you take her to a card shop and she still likes you at the end of the day, she's a keeper. The fact that I'm no longer dating her, that sentence didn't even make sense. But you should at least weigh it in your decisions on value. And I went to the pre-release and managed to pull Apex. And like when I tell you I bought a box and opened it, took out the invoker pieces because I thought if I was going to play it'd be invoker. Took out the invoker pieces and still was able to, because I pulled SPR cooler, I pulled a whole bunch of crap. And I totaled up the sales based off of just people pre-selling and stuff like that. I had made more than the box back. So I bought another box, opened it, pulled out all the invoker stuff. I had made more than the box back. So I pulled a third box, pulled Apex, and was like, huh. Well, I can't play invoker now. I'm selling everything. And then I proceeded to go like home, and a week later, like I saw Target had broken the street date. I bought 8 packs and I pulled freaking Cell And I was like,
Oh my god, my guy.
and
What the heck?
everybody in the DMV chat was like, you don't even play here. Get out. Leave. Like, they were just like so upset. Like, waiting for me just to come in there, take Apex from somebody that probably could have actually used it, sell it for like, at that, when it dropped, it was like 320. I guess they would get
It was so expensive. Ugh.
and then turn around and get Cell Xeno and sell that too. Like, they were just like, why are you choosing us? Like, I gave Cell Xeno for my homie like hookup, but at the same time, it was just kind of like people were a little upset. They were a little upset, and I get that. Like when somebody comes in and they're not even playing your game, bro. Like, why? Why?
Yep.
Like, why are they pulling so broken? And granted, since I've been back, I have not pulled anywhere near that in any pre-release whatsoever. None of my boxes. Now that I'm playing, they're like, "Ah, we got you back, bitch." It'd be a shame if we were to take that RNG slider all the way down to shit city. I'm like, ah.
Oy.
I haven't pulled a natural secret rare since.
Yeah, bro, Apex was expensive. I mean, like in hindsight, like it was like I netted just because of the value of Apex at the moment, so it's like whatever. But like I had to buy that thing on day one because I had like an event that same weekend this I released. Oh, that was a painful. Well, like it's I brought like in that deck is like 60% SR. Like I don't understand why they decided like this archetype. Well, I mean I get why because it's UI Goku. They're like this archetype. Yeah. This archetype. Fuck that shit up with all the SRs. Like it is every single card in that deck is an SR, and I don't understand why.
Dude, it's kind of wild. It's like they did just like the Vegetas were expensive. Freaking Royal Condemnation was expensive. That stuff was funny too. I pulled and out of one that was why the first box was so lit because I pulled my SPRs were literally Cooler, Tyrannical Assault, and Royal Condemnation. And I was like, oh, I should keep. And I saw that Royal Condemnation was like 50 or 60 on release. And I was like, you know what? You can go to. You and Cooler can go. That's the box right there without anything else being touched. That's the box right there. Goodbye. I don't even want to look at y'all no more. And like, yeah, it's kind of gross, man.
Yep. Yeah. Although I got my value out of it. It was a deck that I got to play for over 2 years, so I can't complain too much.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
so
enough. Nope. I sold everything and proceeded to go back into hiding until set 11.
Next question is from Derpy. Who's the one character you want to see put into your favorite color? Essentially, what's your favorite character and what color would you want them in, regardless of viability? Uh, I guess Teen Gohan for me is my favorite character, and well, I guess I already got him right because like my favorite color is like blue and then it's red, and we got a blue Teen Gohan. So like in general, we already got like my character is like pretty easy because I'm pretty basic, right? Like it's between Teen Gohan or Vegeta, and I've had both those leaders in both colors that I love a lot. So like I don't really have any requests. And whenever everyone asks me like, hey, what character? It's like, bro, I'm basic AF, man. I like my Saiyans. So like they already hit me up with the things I like, and like I don't have to feel that like I've been done dirty because I don't like the inferior versions of Gohan. So like it to me it's just it's whatever.
I'm gonna pretend that misinformed disrespect didn't happen. Your form of Gohan that's preferred.
Like I'm gonna put it out there, right? If your favorite Gohan is not adult Gohan, you don't like people being happy. You probably also shouldn't be allowed to be around children because Gohan is nothing short in his teenage years of a just product of child abuse. Like straight start to finish. Homeboy's seen relatives die. Relatives he didn't even know where relatives die. He's been kidnapped. He's gone through Stockholm syndrome. He has somehow gotten his kidnapper killed and felt guilty over it. Do you understand how complex of an emotion that is for a freaking 6-year-old? This man went off into space. Not even 10 years old, went into space because he felt guilty about the death of a dude who kidnapped him with the full intent on weaponizing him to enslave his own race. Like, Teen Gohan, there was no hero's moment. Like, everybody's like, he became the hero. Like, bro, that was not a hero's moment. Homeboy watched all of his friends get like scraped up by mini cells. Cells being a jackass, crushed 16's head. And I quote you, I feel it slipping. Red line crossed the screen. Kid literally spazzed. He was not charging. He was screaming. He was hyperventilating. You heard that, like homeboy was tweaking. And then he came back trying to torture Cell. Like, Gohan Teen was a product of child abuse, mental illness, and he snapped. like he literally snapped. Adult Gohan has come out the other side, has learned to be a productive member of society, has a loving family. And that's wild.
Passes out going Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that was a story beat. And then they decided to like take that story beat and like rewind it, flip it, and reverse it. He's not supposed to go Super Saiyan. Oh wait, he can. Oh wait,
it's because he hasn't worked out, because that was apparently a fine print clause that we never heard from Elder Kai. That makes sense. Look, anywho, I just got off on a tangent because I can't have full peak Gohan being called inferior, because that's Gohan is what happens when you actually go to therapy. Like that's all that happens. Like that is what it is. Now, hating on his setup too. He has the freaking like second richest human on the planet as his like father-in-law. Like wife is a total babe. Bro is just sitting here living life, bro. Living life. And then, to answer that question, because that tangent was hella tangenty, but I always get fired up about my Gohan. It's weird because I don't really have a favorite color anymore. Mainly because once you start content creating, like you can still have your like biases, but you also kind of have to look at the broader view of colors, and every color for one reason or another pisses me off. Blue can't have good cards to finish out his game if it's life dependent on it. So I don't want another adult. Like it's a very real fact, because Gohan is going to be the focus of this next movie. They've already said it. Like the merch is coming out, and like how the main character just has more shine on everybody else in the merch. Like we just saw like Figma pens get released for Japan, and the selection is like Pan, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gamma 1, Gamma 2, Gohan Normal, Gohan Ultimate. The next character, Broly. I was like, wait a second. That's how you know when the merchandising starts giving, who they're putting shine on. So Gohan is for sure getting his main character spotlight in this next movie, which means no freaking shot he's not getting a leader when we start getting cards for this movie. And I don't know what color I want him to be in. He's not going to be in black. That's just not how it is. Black is reserved for Dragon Ball Heroes and Xeno. So he's not going to be in black. Then, if he gets put in yellow, look, there's only two options for this. Yellow is either about to get shot per game, in which case I don't want Gohan being dropped off in a kneecap color. Or yellow is still going to be broken, in which case I don't want Gohan being dropped off in the color that everybody bandwagons. I want to scrape you up with Gohan while you didn't think Gohan was a playable deck like Gen Con. Now, I don't want Gohan in red, because red is the most color inefficient, or the most energy inefficient color in the game.
It is so hungry for its plays.
And on top of that, for being so energy hungry, they ain't even treating you the way it's supposed to be. People are like, red has too many free plays. I'm like, have you ever freaking tried to tap energy in red? It feels bad.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know why compared to other colors, but paying energy in red feels like the most painful thing to do versus every other color.
Bro, it's so freaking bad. Like you tap 3 energy in blue. Like Blue's out here untapping. Blue's out here playing like. All right, let me just put this in perspective. In blue, you are tapping 3 energy at one point to play a Great Saiyaman blocker with Revenge and like Barrier, who also stands. He has blocker. In that format, I could not think of a damn thing I would put 3 hard red energy into.
No.
Not a single card. Like, you're out here putting down Broly unisons in green if you're playing, Majin, Vegeta, and stuff like that. You're out here, like, tapping 3, like, for a counter in yellow. But 3 energy in red? Like Frieza Goku was dead on arrival unless you were from freaking Australia because it cost 5. It's literally just the ain't no way no jitsu. So that kind of killed me because yes, it felt bad being blitzed out, but a lot of people just didn't understand that, if you're blue, you should be maxing out on sensus. If you're green, you should be playing dormant. Like, there were all the cards in the format to not get ran over by King Vegeta. People just didn't feel like maxing out on them. And red needs those free plays because, again, red is Dickus Maximus tapping their energy. Like, you have 4 energy, you tap 3, man, you may die next turn. Like, you can violent raise some person and then just discard one. They'll be like, well, this Unison, this freaking Basil, this leader about to get up in your cheeks. Like, oh, you violent raised me? Well, I'm blue and I'm going to put a bunch of 19k dual attackers on the board. It's like, wait, that's illegal. And you just get ran over. Like, it's bad. Like, so I don't want him in red because if he's in red, if it's archetype based and I can't splash blue, oh no. I don't want him in green because that's a death sentence. So in reality, I don't want Gohan in any of these colors. I want all the colors to get better before I can decide where my baby boy is going to go next. Because right now, none of y'all are worth his grace.
So what about a Surge Gohan?
Oh my God. If they make another Surge leader, I will lose all faith in Bandai. Because there's only 2 ways a Surge leader is about to come out. He's either broken, in which case Bandai has learned nothing, or he's ass, in which case Bandai learned something, but then decided to still print him being ass. And that is not the way. That is absolutely not the way. Let's not, we need to get away from printing dead on arrival cards. There's no reason why you should print a card and I should be like, wow. Yeah, ain't no way. I can't even imagine a future where I play this card. This is no. That's a waste of print. That's literally a waste of print. So best case scenario, if I had to choose, the way things are right now, if he was yellow, then he's broken. Doesn't even matter. Like I said, he only got to be a 7 out of 10. Best case scenario, blue without a massive shell.
Fair.
If he's blue without a massive shell, I can rip some cards from potentially red. I can maybe take some cards from wherever I need to and work from there. So I think that's where we're at right now. Blue without a massive shell.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Blue being the most flexible color to be able to splash. So big fan of the pick there. And finally, we got to the last question from Torax. What archetype would you redo? I.e. Shroom and Salsa not being based around 0 battle cards and drop. I mean, so my community really likes to rile me up about Shroom and Salsa because, for those who don't know, I play in local leagues. Both of the local tournaments I play on Tuesdays and Thursdays are league play, which means we play for X amount of weeks throughout a season, and then based on how you play throughout the entire season, you get put into a top 8 tournament for prizing, and it's all free. Shroom and Salsa was a deck I promised to play within that season, and I held off on doing it until the last week of the season, where it was basically I needed to 3-0 the tournament to get a spot in, or even just win one. Maybe win one and draw one. Maybe it was some kind of situation like that. Maybe actually it was even worse, and and I went 0-3 with Shroom and Salsa, and I was like, when I made that promise, I thought the deck was going to be cool. I didn't think it was going to be great because I knew there's a lot of restrictions, right? Not every deck is going to put you in a position where you can actually make sure they don't have anything in their drop. But that deck is incredibly bad at doing it too. The deck is kind of okay now if you play the thwarting package, but that's just because on the back of thwarting more so than the Shroom and Salsa stuff. So, but I wouldn't even pick that deck. That deck is dead to me, bro. I've told anyone that if they try and force me to, if they push the Shroom and Salsa narrative too much on my stream chat, they're banned. And not even because I'm that salty about it, but just because I'm trying to I'm trying to send a message. So it wouldn't be Shroom and Salsa because I just really don't care about the deck enough. It did me dirty and I never want to see it again. And if I really want to play a Shroom and Salsa style deck, I would just play Meki Cabra. It does the Shroom and Salsa thing, but better and actually good. So like, I don't know what archetype I guess I would redo. Um, like I guess my biggest thing, and we kind of got it, but it's just kind of easy to pick because it's a card that's on my deck. The Goji like Ramp Gogeta is kind of a weird balance because the Awakened side of that leader is actually completely broken, but the Awakened side kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Um, so I guess if I would like redo an archetype, I would redo the archetype in a way that like Veku isn't as vulnerable, or the front side can be like a decent blue leader that doesn't actually need to rely on the blue strategy. But like it's a tough pick. In general, I think most archetypes that I enjoy have all kind of been decent enough for me to not feel like they need to get a big redo. And generally, if I wait long enough, then it'll get like rebooted cards, kind of like the Crimson Vegeta and the new Red Blue ramp, BR ramp stuff we got. So I don't know. I don't think there's any archetype that I feel like needs to be super redone that I would appreciate. Sherman's also would be an easy pick, but again, it basically did get rebooted with the Mecha Cabra leader. So I don't know. I don't really feel like any archetype. Like there's some I wish were more powerful, but that wouldn't require a reboot of the archetype if not just like the deck just getting more support. Like like some decks like Red Yellow Baby. It's a deck I love. It could arguably use a little bit more support in terms of making it making the combo just a little bit better. But like at the end of the day, the deck's fine, and it could always just end up getting a one card piece support. Like Red Green King Vegeta got the field card. OG Broly got the field card. So in general, I'm pretty happy with the archetypes the way they are for the most part.
Well, I'm glad you guys asked. Archetypes to redo. First off, it's Red Gohan from.
Oh my god, are we fucking every single week?
Man needs to draw when he swings. Man needs to draw when he swings. He's a combo deck. Let him get more cards in his hand to combo. Let him plus. Let him plus. That way it could be the combo fiend he needs to be. Past that, Jiren in the same set.
That's fair. Actually, Jiren would actually be a solid to reboot. Like I don't know what it is about that deck, but
like, all right, I'm gonna be real. It is a freaking shame that we have not like that. Almost every UI deck that has come out has been heat. Now I'm not talking about the fugly UI sign ones. Every mastered UI leader card has been absolute heat so far in the game. I think there's only one coming out with a second one. Not counting the starter deck one. We don't touch that. But meanwhile, every single Jiren deck has been mid. This is the dude who literally disrespected everybody on the playing field until Goku ass pulled to beat him. And I got into like a little Twitter flame earlier today. People were like, oh, it's kind of stupid that you say you hate GT when you openly like Jiren, because Jiren's an ass pull character. I'm like, in the 3-minute dry ass Jiren backstory, we were told that this man has been training since the age of like 7 to never lose again. That's the opposite of an ass pull. He has dedicated his entire life to kicking people's asses. And so like, look, Jiren is on that level. Like other gods acknowledge him as a real one. He is able to blatantly disrespect his god of destruction with no consequences. Like, y'all remember when Belmod told his entire backstory on screen and Jiren was like, that's enough out of you. And Belmod literally just shut up. Like, Goku could never do that to Beerus. Like, he literally could never do that. So Jiren just needs, like, some respect on his name. If Apex, like, if Invoker Goku can be the strongest deck of a format, if MUI Goku can be the best red card for a format, we deserve a format where you look at Jiren and you go, oh yeah, Jiren just mops. Like, Jiren is literally just one of the strongest decks in the format. And this does not come from you printing a freaking boss card with quad strike, but no conceivable way to connect. Which you have tried 3 times already. Like, stop it. So literally, stop it. Stop it. None of these quad strikes that require you to have 30 U11s in the grave. None of these quad strikes that require you to tap like 7. like stop it. I don't care if you remove quad strike. It was cute. Jiren needs quad strike. But like, Jiren with Quad Strike that could be thwarted by a single Whis' course. Stop it. This is it's shameful. Like, oh my god, the bag fumbled so many times. This shit was so wild.
Yeah, I mean, or even just the fact we've never got a Jiren SCR still kind of blows my mind.
To be fair, you're not wrong. Like, again, Jiren he's that dude. Like, y'all are forgetting. This man was mopping everybody. He got clapped up a little bit by Mastered Ultra Instinct, and he just straight up said, "Ain't no way you were gonna gain some silver hair and put hands on me." And through sheer force of will, kicked it up to the level where he was throwing hands back and forth. Lost. And people that say it's a straight loss, okay, Goku lost, quote unquote, unallegedly, like 9 times throughout that tournament. It's a wonder that they just let Goku die and then just take naps. Like, this man was in the middle of a war zone, just sleeping half the time. Oh, let me just play with Kale and Caulifla and gain my energy back. Oh, Frieza's gonna give me some energy. Oh, everybody's getting wrung out, but for some reason I land in some rubble and nobody thinks to knock my ass. All right, look, Goku did not win the fight. He got MC plot armored all throughout the battle, then made an ass pull that was Mastered Ultra Instinct. And then they still had to 3v1 jump this man. He still had this much gas. Like, they had to jump him at the end, and they couldn't even knock him out. They had to bring him out on a technicality. Like, Jiren deserves an SDR. Jiren deserves a best deck in format. Jiren deserves so much more than this.
Yeah.
And that's my soapbox. Jiren and Gohan from the same set need to be rebooted. There we go. That's my TED Talk.
Yeah, I don't know about Gohan
but
so
baby boy needs shine too.
With that said, guys, that was our SC mailbag. Of course, if you guys want to ask a question and have it answered on the show, then just jump onto the Discords and jump into the SC mailbag and ask your question there, or tweet at us with the hashtag SC mailbag and we'll get to your question on air. With that said, that was our agenda for today. In terms of what Chris and I have going this week, I don't know if, like, you know, the video schedule is sporadic. It always depends on how work is for me, but streams are still going to go live. If you guys want to see what locals are like this week, I'll probably be playing Shenron Catapesla, so that should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be messing around with some side decks as usual while we wait for the new format to pop out. And that'll be it. If there's some videos that pop out, we'll see if I can get some recording stuff, so we'll keep you on the YouTube. But in general, that's what I got going today. Or this week, I guess. How about you, Chris? What do you got going on this week?
Well, with an entire series of videos going down the shitter, I am gracefully struggling to find new content. To be honest, it's kind of like just it's fever pitching right now, man. Like, I am making content for Dokkan and Legends on one channel. I'm making content for this on another. We just went over Tampa, which is nice. I just put out a video about where I think the format needs to go. For the first time in a long time, I have no idea what video I'm making next, but just be aware that it'll probably drop on Wednesday. Like, don't know where we're going, but that's the magic of it. So when it looks really well and put together on Wednesday, just know that it was probably made Tuesday night.
Hey, yo.
And if I somehow brain fart and don't come out with a video on Wednesday, you know why. Just support your boy in the meantime. I'm going to try to come up with something. We've already kind of expended all of our topics about Realm of the Gods. We talked about future stuff. My future video was also kind of tied into what I wanted for the ban list. I'm not even going to say what I think is going to happen in the ban list, because this shit is pretty much unpredictable at this point. They be reprinting problem cards. Like, don't forget, like, King Piccolo and Bergamo were announced as winner stamps cards and then immediately put to 1. So like, you really can't read. Like, they got unpredictable. Like, Bandai's planning process has Ultra Instinct in relation to our predictions. So oh man, it is a lot. I have no idea. Y'all, you call me with that question, I feel like a doofus right now.
No, it's fine. I mean, there's some weeks like that. It's cool.
Back to drop on Wednesday, y'all.
I bet.
Oh, you know what? I got a fight night that I record and haven't edited. Bang! That's why we do it. That's why we do it, baby.
Hey, there we go.
So expect a fight night. Colors will be blue versus red. I'll leave the deck's little secret, and yeah, we'll get in there, bud. We will get in there.
I bet. Cool. All right, everyone, and that was this week's Combo podcast. Of course, thank you guys so much for listening. That was our show for today. Of course, catch you guys next week, and until then, best of luck with your top deck, guys.
See you soon.